37th parallel on America's haunted highway, it's Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pixelated Paranormal. This is episode 325. I, of course, am Sean, and I'm all sorts of full on Chipotle and chocolate peanut butter cookie cupcakes. And with me, as always, is Preston. Preston, how are you, buddy?
Fuck, I'm old, man. What's up, all you cool ghosts and goblins? Crocodines, crocodingos, skeletors, skelets, witchers, and witches, and whatever the fuck else you want to be. Daddy's putting in a new floor in the house, and my legs hurt, my back hurt, my knees hurt. I need a vacation. So,
yeah, you need a vacation from these days you're taking off to go do more work around the house.
I know.
Man. Well, we'll be doing the same thing soon. We're going to start fixing up this place we're in and then getting it on the market as well. So, yep, that's it, folks. Pixelated Paranormal is now going to be about two somewhat middle-aged men remodeling their house.
Yeah. It's almost like
and
home
chili
improvement.
recipes. We're going to bring chili recipes.
I could be Tim the Toolman
Right.
Taylor, and you could be Al.
Yeah. Dude, I'll do it. I'll be Al Borland. I got the beard. I got the longer beard, I should say.
Yeah.
I almost cut it all off the other day, dude. I had a moment of, I'd say clarity, but clarity's not the word. But I think I will probably chop off about 3 inches of it, though.
Yeah.
Go a little shorter. But anyway, in other news, this episode is going to be our June 2024 news roundup story. Why? Well, that's because I forgot yesterday was Thursday until about, early evening. So we did not get to record just after I said, hey, everybody, we're going to start recording on Thursdays. So that's my bad, but it's cool. I've been sitting on a boatload of really fun news stories, and they all fell into one little wonderful basket. So to kick things off, Preston, what is the weirdest thing you ever found, either at a garage sale, while antiquing, while just out and about, even while fishing? Got any weird stories?
No.
Me neither. Me neither. I did go on a garage sale adventure with Steve once, several years ago, and I found a cow skull and a pickaxe and a book called Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. That's about a chick that worked at a crematory. So that was pretty cool. I did find some fun stuff, but nothing super weird. Oh, hey, this just in. This is a live update. My friend Gwen just hit me up. Do you still do your ghost hunting podcast? If so, the theater might be interested in letting you go in there.
No.
So way back, we were like 2 or 3 years into the show, pre-COVID, and I went to a local theater in a neighboring town that's pretty old. It's one of those historic theaters, and we were just about to get in and start doing some really fun stuff with stories, do some investigations, and then my friend Gwen stepped down and was no longer manager. Serendipitous. Yeah, she just hit me up just now. I was talking about this earlier today to my associate at work, so
Fuck,
we
Jeremy,
might do a little ghost hunt and some ghost.
You were just in Boston on Saturday, man. What are you fucking like road tripping all across America? Can you not stay in like one place, man? God
Hell
damn
yeah,
it.
dude. He's a rambling man.
I know.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Well, yeah, I'll put a pin in that and get back to everybody. We might have to go to Augusta and do a little ghost hunting. But
Yeah.
I haven't found anything truly weird or unusual myself while out and about, but I did find a bunch of stories about really weird discoveries. But to kick things off, we're going to have a little palate cleanser here. Short, sweet, and animal news. A Texas wildlife center had to change its safety rules after an animal turned a 2-year-old's visit into an airborne adventure. That's right, folks. 2-year-old Paisley Toten was in the bed of a pickup truck with her mom back on June 1st as her family was touring the Fossil Rim Wildlife Center, where visitors can see exotic animals such as zebras, giraffes, and sable antelope and feed them from the comfort of their own car. Well, the family stopped to feed a giraffe, when suddenly it grabbed Paisley's shirt by accident and lifted her out of the bed of the truck several feet up in the air. Paisley's mom was in the pickup with her and shouted, prompting the giraffe to drop the toddler into her arms unhurt. The video of the encounter taken from behind the wheel, that doesn't make any sense. Why would the driver be recording?
But that giraffe was like,
anyway,
fuck kids, I'm hungry.
Yeah, no kidding. I need some protein. Anyway, there was a video, and the girl's family recorded the entire incident. Paisley was holding a bag, and the giraffe went for the bag and accidentally grabbed her shirt too, pulling her out of the back of the truck. So since then, park rules have changed. You can no longer ride in the back of a truck. It has to be inside of a covered vehicle. Wah, wah. It just takes one person and one giraffe to ruin shit for everybody, you know?
I know.
Well, in relating animal news and off to our wonderful world of weird recent discoveries. Back on June 20th, animal control was called to a Virginia bookstore. No, a Goodwill, I guess. Jesus. An animal control officer was called to a Virginia Goodwill thrift store after... Dude, I'm not cut out for this tonight. Swallowed my own spit down my windpipe. Take 3. An animal control officer in Virginia was summoned to a Goodwill thrift store after an employee sorting through a box of donated books found something they couldn't read. A 4-foot-long snake. The Stafford County Sheriff's Office said on social media that Animal Control Captain J.A. Bice was called to the Goodwill on Dockstone Road in Stafford to get rid of the unwanted donation. Using the powers of persuasion and a bit of parcel tongue, Captain Bice was able to safely remove the snake and release it back into the wild. The sheriff's office didn't reveal the species of the Slytherin suspect that was seized at the store, but they explained that it was a local snake that was put in the box. With the rise of temperatures recently, everyone's trying to beat the heat, even local wildlife. So yeah, dude, that's probably somebody who stored a box of books in their garage, and then they just took it straight to Goodwill.
Scott, Sean loves Trump so much that he even had this like long, drawn out, detailed dream where he was Trump's go-to man. He was gonna like design.
I was his graphic designer.
He was his graphic designer. He was on the campaign trail. Sean was gonna be the reason why America was gonna be made great again. But damn it, Donnie fucked it all up. So yeah, I mean, I get it. He told me he loves Trump too.
This episode is fast. This episode's fast and loose. Scott, I had a dream several years ago that Trump was in Wichita and he was trying to help like renovate our downtown, Old Town area. And I forget the full details of the dream, but the high notes were that basically like he's like, I got a great idea, blah blah blah. We're gonna rename Old Town Thong City, and in order to walk around, you have to be wearing a thong. And like I was so pissed at this guy because he's such a bumbling idiot that like I wanted to quit. I wanted to stop working for him completely. And he's like, no, please, you got to keep working for me. Like, you can't go anywhere. You're the guy. You're my guy. I'm like, all right, you're getting one more chance. So like, don't fuck this up. If you have one more stupid idea, I'm out the door. He's like, all right, we're going to renovate Old Town. And I got this great plan. It's going to be called Thong City. And to walk around downtown, you have to wear a thong. What do you think? And I just remember in the dream, I was just like, God damn it, Donnie, this is the bullshit I'm talking about. And I got up and stormed out of his office, and I woke up.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
We could have made Wichita great
Scott,
again.
that's fake news, pal.
Could have made Wichita great again.
But could we? Could we? So you remember Presto in the midst of COVID, that we had all these really interesting monoliths popping up everywhere, right? People didn't know if they were movie props or art installations or just good old-fashioned pranks.
Uh-huh.
Well, in Las Vegas, Nevada, just a few days ago, a strange monolith was found jutting out of the rocks in a remote mountain range near Las Vegas. How did it get there? Well, that mystery is still running unsolved. Preston, if you haven't already, first picture, if you could, buddy. It remains unknown how the item got into the location or who may be responsible, said the Las Vegas police back on Friday. Anyway, this thing is 6 foot tall, four-sided, and it's got a mirror finish. So if you look at this thing, it's almost kind of a trick of the mind. Like, are you really seeing what you think you're seeing, or is it some kind of mirage? Anyway, the discovery last weekend was quickly removed because of public safety and environment concerns, thus reviving still a pandemic-era mystery that captured the public's imagination. These monoliths were very reminiscent of the 2001 A Space Odyssey's monoliths, but a lot smaller. Anyway, members of the Las Vegas police searched and rescued and found the object near Gas Peak, part of a vast desert national wildlife refuge where bighorn sheep and desert tortoises can be found roaming. It was the latest discovery in a long series of mysterious columns that go back at least to 2020. In November of that same year, another mysterious metal monolith was found deep in the Mars-like landscape in Utah's Red Rock Desert. Then came sightings in Romania, Central California, New Mexico, and on the famed Fremont Street in downtown... I didn't know that. In downtown Vegas. Interesting. All of them disappeared just as quickly as they popped up. This one specifically, somebody said, is not from another world. It happens to be most likely an art installation. But you can tell in the second photo, if you toss up there, this thing was 6 feet tall and it had about another 2 feet of rebar and some concrete that cemented it into the actual desert land. But yeah, it's a bummer, dude. I think it'd be cool to leave those things up, but alas, they pulled it down for public safety. This possesses a danger to you and the environment if left up. We like to discourage anybody from venturing off marked trails or leaving objects or items left behind.
How's it dangerous?
So I'm sure somebody...
How's it dangerous for the environment? It's fucking like... I mean, that's like saying, oh, you put up a skylight building with concrete and rebar, you fucked up Mother Nature. I mean... are you using lead paint and the birds are gonna, nibble on it and die? It's fucking glass and concrete, which we put up all the fucking time. I think, you know what?
Well,
I'm gonna go out on a limb here because I think birds aren't real conspiracy theorists. Scott's still on here. There's the wildlife park conspiracy that park rangers are covering up human disappearances all the time, right? You got missing 411. I bet these fuckers just don't want random people like going out, into the national parks to look at the art installations and then getting lost on their dime because they're trying to cover up that fucking, Bigfoots and Neanderthals are real and they're fucking stealing people to mate with them, and we just don't want to give more food for the fodder. So it's not because it's like it's bad for the environment. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. So
yeah, I think the problem is, like, you've got these extreme adventure seekers that go out and they take GoPro videos of themselves, like, hanging over cliff edges and dangling from one hand and stuff like that. And that's already pseudo against the law as it is, because if you're doing this kind of shit at, like, the Grand Canyon, it becomes incredibly dangerous, and you could, just accidentally oof yourself if you slip and fall down. I think the problem is, if you don't take these things down and make the stance of like, hey, knock this shit off, we're not going to put up with it, you're also going to have people slamming those things left and right wherever they can find. And I think that's the problem with what's going to, really damage these national parks. 1 or 2 is not going to do too much. Although I think if you put like a mirror-faced monolith up in a national park and you have like an antelope run up or a deer or a moose and they see it, they may mistake that for themselves if they catch a glimpse, in a mirror. Next thing you know, you got 4 or 5 dead, longhorn bucks just passed out or dead because they've knocked themselves silly. I think it could cause some issues. A bird could fly into it.
Survival of the fittest. Fuck 'em.
That's true. 1 or 2, I don't think is a problem, but you're going to start seeing people going like way out of their way to do these art installations, and someone's going to get hurt, and they're just going to pop up fucking everywhere. So I don't agree with it. I think it's cool. You should leave them up. But I mean, again, if one of them gets left up, another one pops up, and next thing you know, people are just destroying national parks and landmarks everywhere. So what's going to happen is someone's going to probably go up to like Mount Rushmore and just slap one right in the middle of one of those presidents' foreheads, and then we're going to have a huge problem on our hands. Anyway, speaking of wonderful
Scott,
discoveries,
Scott,
10,000 pieces.
Scott says deers also aren't real. So
Jesus.
I think we need to I think we need to investigate that next. I'm more into deers aren't real versus birds aren't real. Dude. I think fucking deers are like invented by insurance companies to like, fuck up, or the automotive industry. How do we keep selling more cars? You fucking put robotic deers on the road and people hit them and your car explodes. You got to buy a new car again. It's a fucking conspiracy, man. Better than flat earth and the mud flood. I'll sell you that right now.
I think you're onto something, pal. I think you're onto something. Yeah, Scott commented too that the majority of like the hiking trails and whatnot in Utah won't even allow dogs on them. So yeah, it's all about preservation for sure.
Dude, you know what's great about Scott? You know what's great about that? Hold on. Let me ramble for a minute. Fuck it. You know what? You have me on late. You have me on late past my bedtime. This show is
going a lot longer than you want it to.
Look, do you know how fucking dumb people are on TikTok that literally like, and out where I live by the country and the highway, there's fucking deer carcasses all over the place. I could literally just go up to any random deer carcass on the side of the highway, put some like robotic parts coming out of it and some wires, and then film it on TikTok. And I swear to God, I could get 90% of America believing that the automobile industry plants deers just to force people to buy new cars. I mean, it's a brilliant idea. I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the next big TikTok star.
Hey, you're onto something, pal. That's all I can say is you're onto something. Whether it's going to be a prison sentence or something else, you're onto something. Well, speaking of carcasses, 10,000 pieces of human remains were recently found back on the property of the Herb Baumeister serial killer case. In Hamilton County, Indiana, the investigation into the Indiana serial killer has gained renewed attention after more remains were found on the suspect's farm and have now been positively identified. The remains belong to Jeffrey Jones, officials said back in May. They were originally recovered back in 1996 from the Fox Hollow Farm, the home of a suspected serial killer named Herb Baumeister in Westfield, Indiana. It's believed that Baumeister targeted gay men, luring them from bars to his home back in the 80s and 90s, before killing them and disposing of their bodies on his property. He was under investigation for about a dozen deaths when he died by suicide in 1996. The investigation began when Baumeister's 15-year-old son stumbled upon the bones on the family's 18-acre estate. Man, I probably should have dropped a trigger warning at the beginning of this. The Hamilton County Coroner's Office has been working to give names to the remains of victims found in the sprawling estate. Officials have said now that more than 10,000 pieces of human remains have been recovered, including bones, fragments, and body parts. However, identifying who these parts belong to is incredibly difficult because many of the remains were found burnt or crushed, causing the investigation to be extremely challenging. Investigators believe there are at least 12 different victims, possibly more, and they have now only identified 3 of them positively. Here is what we know about the case and the developments. Back on June 24th, 1996, hell, that's, what is that, 28 years from next Monday? Herbert Baumeister's 15-year-old son stumbled onto bones while on the family's 18-acre property back in the remote wooded area of Hamilton County. The discovery took place about 60 yards away from the house. Dayton Daily News reported that the 15-year-old found a skull on the property and showed it to his mother. At the time, Herb explained it was part of his dead father's medical practice. It didn't seem out of character as Baumeister collected and kept everything. Yeah, I mean, I've got a fake human skeleton hand right here, so yeah, I'm with you, Herb. Not really. While the discovery at the time would have only merited a brief mention in the staff reports for the Indiana Star, it thus still started an investigation. 3 days after the boy discovered the bones, they were identified as human remains. More remains were discovered by Hamilton County firefighters, and at the time, this began to perplex investigators. It's an unusual spot to find bodies. I don't know, an 18-acre farm, that's not really that unusual to me. The investigation begins amid divorce proceedings between Herbert and his wife of 24 years. The day after his son found the bones, Baumeister's wife granted an emergency protective order and custody to keep Herbert away from their son. Oh, and the other two children. There's 3 children. She didn't know how he'd react to discovering the bones, and the investigation was unfolding, so the woman's divorce attorney said at the time to file a PFA. The divorce records indicated that Baumeister's been accused of the other... the divorce records indicate that Baumeister was accused of mismanaging the family business. They operated a Save-A-Lot thrift store, which had judgments and lawsuits filed against them. Less than 2 weeks later after the discovery, Less than 2 weeks after the discovery, Herb Baumeister was found dead of self-inflicted gunshot wounds near Toronto. He skipped out on the divorce hearing on Tuesday before he succumbed to self-inflicted injuries. After his death, Baumeister had listed several results. Hold on, paraphrase this. After his death by self-inflicted gunshots, the Indianapolis Star reported that Baumeister mentioned several regrets in his note, but didn't mention the bones. However, it would not be long before prior allegations came to light connecting him to the mysteries surrounding the deaths of several men and prostitutes missing in Indiana. So anyway, if you want to know the rest of the details, look that up, because this story goes on for quite a while on this website, and I'm not going to go through the entire thing. But yeah, man, 10,000 body parts found on this farm. Jesus H, man. All right, let's keep the theme of unearthed discoveries going here, shall we? Preston, true or false? Did George Washington cut down his fabled cherry tree?
I don't know, probably false.
I think it is false. But that's okay. He might not have cut down cherry trees, but boys and gals, did he ever jar and can and preserve cherries back on his property? George Washington never cut down the cherry tree, despite the famous story, but he packed away tons of bottles of fruit in his Mount Vernon home. Dozens of bottles of cherries and berries, and possibly preserved in storage pits uncovered from the cellar of his mansion on the banks of the Potomac River, were discovered during an archaeological dig connected to a restoration project. Jason Burrows, Mount Vernon's principal archaeologist, said the discovery of so much perfectly preserved food from more than 250 years ago is essentially unprecedented. Finding what is essentially fresh fruit 250 years later is spectacular. All the stars sort of aligned in the right manner for this to happen. Whole pieces of fruit, recognizable as cherries, were found in some of the bottles. Preston, that next photo there is some of the bottles they actually found on the property. Other bottles held what appeared to be gooseberries or currants, though testing is underway to confirm exactly what they were. Mount Vernon is partnering with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which is conducting DNA testing on the fruit, and they're also examining more than 50 cherry pits recovered in other bottles to see if any of these cherry pits are still viable to replant. It's kind of a long shot, said Benjamin Gutierrez, a USDA plant geneticist, of the chances of using a cherry pit to grow a tree. Seeds preserve best when they're dry, and most of the samples found at the Mount Vernon estate were waterlogged. A couple of pits tested initially were not viable as seeds. Still, though, he said the bottles are remarkable. In addition to DNA testing, chemical testing may be done to show what particular spices were used to preserve the fruits. Records at Mount Vernon show that George and Martha Washington were very fond of cherries, at least when mixed with brandy. Martha Washington's recipe for a cherry bounce cocktail survives, and Washington wrote that he took a canteen of cherry bounce with him on a trip across the Alleghenies in 1784. These cherries, though, were most likely bottled to be eaten simply as cherries. The quality of the preservation reflect a high caliber of work. Slaves that ran the plantation's kitchen, overseen by a woman named Doll, skipping here, skipping there, were tasked with taking care of trees, picking fruit, and working in the kitchen. Those would have been the folks that probably would have overseen this process done properly. It's a highly skilled process. Otherwise, the fruit wouldn't have survived this way. Bottles were found only because Mount Vernon is doing a $40 million revitalization project of the mansion that they were expected to be completed by the nation's 250th anniversary in 2026. When we do archaeology, it's destructive, thus we had to be very careful not to disturb resources we tend to find. And then blah, blah, blah. They know the bottles predate 1775 because that's when an expansion of the mansion led to the area being covered over by a brick floor. And it says here they found 35 bottles in the actual dig. They destroyed 6, thus leaving 29 intact. 12 of these bottles had cherries, 16 held other berries believed to be currants and gooseberries, and a larger bottle had both cherries and other berries mixed together. Pretty fucking cool, and now I want to go on my own archaeological dig to find out what the recipe for Martha Washington's cherry bounce consists of.
I came across the recipe for Applejack, and I made that one
Did
year.
you?
Yeah.
Huh,
Yeah.
how was it?
It'll knock your socks off, man. Knock your
Really?
socks off. Yeah, it's like if a cider and whiskey had a baby, Applejack would be the offspring.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, while you were talking about that, I looked up the recipe here for cherry bounce in case you want to make another little expedition
it.
of our own. Cherry bounce is a type of cherry bounce is a type of liquor made by infusing old French brandy with sour cherries, cinnamon, nutmeg, and sugar. Other recipes call for rum, whiskey, and vodka instead of brandy. So yeah, dude, old George Washington was just running rampant through the Alleghenies with a big old satchel of cherry brandy on his hip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel so bad about drinking before we go run races now.
Yeah. Scott says fake news. George Washington didn't exist. If you would have paid attention to our last show, Sean, the mud flood rebirth happened alongside the Industrial Revolution, aka a reptilian story.
Ah, Jesus, H. You guys are two peas in a fucking pod. He lights the fire and you just throw gasoline on it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Preston, this is kind of up your alley, man. Back on June 18th, a vase purchased for a measly $3.99 at a Maryland thrift store ended up actually being a 2,000-year-old Mayan artifact. Anna Lee Dozier of Washington said she was shopping at a 2A thrift store in Clinton when her attention was grabbed by an unusual vase. It looked old-ish, but I thought maybe 20 or 30 years. Some kind of tourist reproduction thing that might have been brought home. Dozier said that she was visiting Mexico on a work trip earlier this year when she noticed some items on display at a museum of anthropology, which bore a startling resemblance to the vase that she had in her hand, priced at a mere $3.99. She spoke with a museum official who recommended she contact the Mexican embassy when she returned home. Dozier shared photos of the dimensions of the vase with the embassy, and the item was identified as a Mayan artifact dating back to AD 200 to 800. Dozier and her family returned the vase to the Mexican ambassador Esteban Moctezuma Barragan in a ceremony held at the Cultural Institute of Mexico. She said, "I'm thrilled to have played a part in its reparation story. I'd like it to go back to the rightful place where it belongs. I also want it out of my home because I..." Huh?
Finders keepers. I found that shit at a thrift
no
store
shit.
for $3. Fucking mine.
Yeah. I also want it out of my house because I have 3 little boys and I have been petrified that they were going to break it. But now it's been returned back where it belongs. Another thrift vase purchased at the price of $3.99 from Goodwill store in Virginia was auctioned last year for over $107,000 when it was found to be designed by Carlo Scarpa, a famed Italian company. For famed Italian company Vanini back in 1942. Fuck it, dude. I'm going to go to Goodwill tomorrow. See if I can find some
Obviously,
ancient artifacts.
This is a good story about how you fuckers out there just need to actually do some research and learn some history on some stuff. You know, and if I go garage selling, and I come across something, I'm scanning, pictures and, finding the history. I got some really cool Japanese vase on my shelf up there somewhere, you know? God damn. Be a bookworm.
There's something I want to get at a local thrift shop here in Wichita. I won't do it because the guy that's selling it, or the girl, or whoever's selling it, they're upcharging the shit out of it. But a lot of people know about the Return of the Living Dead, the 1985 zombie film. One of my favorite movies of all time. Well, there's a sequel that didn't do nearly as good called Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And part of the production material for this movie was a ceramic bust of the title of the film, and like a weird spirit cloud kind of zigzagging upwards and blossoming into this weird zombie face. There are ceramic ceramic statues of this thing that were dropped off at movie theaters and movie video stores to basically promote the film. Well, they've got one here in Wichita, and the person wants $550 for it. Fucking insane. Now, to their credit, the last one that sold on eBay sold for $425. So talk about like a modern day horror movie archaeology expedition. Back on June 19th, next story. A message in a bottle launched from an island between the United States and Canada has recently turned up 63 years later near Boston. This is actually pretty cool. Fisheries and Oceans Canada Maritime said in a social media post that the bottle with the note inside was a drift bottle used to track surface currents. Back in 1922, researchers tracked surface currents by releasing bottles into the ocean, relying on people to then let them know when and where the bottles were found. This old-school technology only helped researchers understand the recovery locations and dates. This bottle was one of 5, launched back in 1961 from the Machias Seal Island, and disputed a disputed island in the Bay of Fundy, which was found recently on the northern tip of Cape Cod. The bottle contained a note promising a $1 reward if the finder reported the bottle's location to researchers. It's unclear whether or not the offer still remains valid. But yeah, next picture, just a glass bottle with an orange note. Break this bottle in return for a $1 reward. Still pretty fucking cool, man. That's one of those things where, like, I don't think I'd turn that in. I'd probably just stick it on a shelf somewhere. All right, Preston, fire up the Pixelated Paranormal paddle boat. We're going to keep things aquatic for the rest of the episode. A New York magnet fisher recovers safe full of soggy dollar bills. James Kane in New York has used a magnet to fish out all manners of junk from the New York waterways, but this time around he found stacks of $100 bills when he pulled up a safe from the murky depths. Kane's girlfriend, Barbie Agostini, 39 years old, thought he was joking when he said that their life was about to change. The Associated Press said back on Monday she was filming Kane when he pulled up a slimy safe out of the lake of Flushing Meadows Corona Park and extracted bags full of waterlogged $100 bills. She said, he said, "Oh, that's money," in the video. "Oh, it's stacks of bills, dude. Oh my God." The couple estimates the safe contains $100,000 in damaged currencies. The bills featured the 3D security ribbon that indicates recent vintage, but the safe bore no clue as to who the rightful owner was. Kane and Agostini said they called the police and reported the discovery, doing the right thing, and then the police said there's no evidence of a crime connected to the safe. So, they gave the money back to Kane and his girlfriend. Like you said, Presto, finders keepers. The New York Police Department did not respond to requests of confirmation of Kane's discovery. Kane said he and Agostini planned to take their soggy money to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing in Washington to redeem it. Some portion of the bills will likely be too damaged to recover, but the pair have some ideas with what they're going to spend the money on for the money that is able to be replaced, including new vehicles, upgrades to the equipment they use to fish, and other great toys. Kane is far from the only magnet fisher, however, who made a mark in recent years. All it takes is a powerful magnet and a body of water and some strong rope. But here's where this little hobby turns kind of grim, presto. In New Orleans, a human skull has also recently been discovered as being pulled from a waterway in New Orleans. But here's the weird thing. The skull was padlocked to a dumbbell. In New Orleans, a human skull padlocked to an exercise dumbbell was recently fished out of a New Orleans waterway, leaving police baffled with a mystery on their hands. The skull was found earlier this month by a man using a red rope and a magnet the size of a hockey puck on a bridge to pull things out of the water from below. The report was recently released and obtained by the Times New Orleans Advocate. The fisherman also found a handgun and a gun barrel in the water back on May 18th. The 15-pound dumbbell was padlocked around the skull, which was fully decomposed, lacking a jaw or a top row of teeth. Oh shit, this is a hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
The magnet fisherman flagged down a passing police officer after making the find off Bayou Street John Bridge. The New Orleans police didn't have any further updates on the case this week, and a coroner didn't say whether or not he confirmed the victim's identity. The police have been seeking tips from the public as they investigate the case. That would be fucking awesome and terrifying at the same time to find, dude. I know out in El Dorado Lake, where I'm from, we supposedly had several diving teams come out and do little investigations, and they commented that they'd never come back because there's so many dead bodies that are in that fucking waterway. Apparently it used to be the old dumping grounds for, the mob and the mafia way back in the early 20s and late 30s.
Yeah, up toward Pittsburgh in Weir 1 and Weir 2, because naming towns in Kansas, we just go 1, 2, and 3. They were like the sand pits and the gravel pits that they were digging out with Big Brutus. Those eventually filled in with water, so you had like these super deep, man-made lakes. And so back in like the 20s and 30s, as they got done strip mining that, the mob out there would actually take cars and like put bodies in the back of the trunks of cars and like roll them into the water, and they would sink. And a couple of years ago, that's a lot of people go out there to learn how to like dive. And so they're teaching like diving classes, and they came across like all these cars, and so they got a team, and they got all these like 1950s and Chevrolets and Fords, and got them out of the water and opened up the trunk, and it's like full of skeletons and shit. And they're like, the fucking mob used to run this town, so what do you expect, right?
Right. Hopefully the audio came through in what you just said, because the entire time you were just talking, it was all just garbled robot voice. I'm not sure how that's going to come across, man. Yeah. I caught most of what it was, but I'm not sure how it translated across the YouTube. I threw on one more photo into this doc. I don't know if it's too late.
I only
downloaded
3 Bud.
Oh, and you got it downloaded before we record. Okay, cool. Well, anyway, there's a picture for you of what this little bust looks like. I'd love to get this thing, but fuck, $550. It's also sitting next to a Baphomet statue as well. So, you know what? All sorts of cool shit at this guy's little odds and ends.
How much for the Baphomet
Anyway, I don't know. It didn't have a price tag on it that I could read. Nope, it's covered up. He's got something else here that says $666 on this statue. Oh, no, he's booth number 666, I bet. That makes more sense. Yep. Annie Hoozle. That kind of concludes it for tonight's episode, guys. But next week, we're diving back into the wonderful murky waters of conspiracies. I'm not going to share what the topic is, but folks, we're going to head on back to the olden days of merry old England for a recent story that I just came across that baffled the shit out of me. So brace yourselves. We're going across the pond, and I think it's going to be a story that's going to make a few people kind of scratch their head a little bit and say, what the fuck? But until then, if you're on the social medias, give us a follow on Instagram at PXL Paranormal. On Facebook, we are the Pixelated Paranormal Podcast. Preston, what do you got for me, bud?
I think we're up to like 315 subscribers on YouTube. So look, share, like,
Sweet.
subscribe. We're up to like 33 on Rumble, 4 or 5 on Kick. We have a Twitch, but I don't think anybody but, the fake robots get on Twitch and they're like, I love your content. I want to see your content grow. Email me at such and such, and we can talk about if you pay me $5,000 a month, I'll make you grow exponentially. Like, get the fuck out of here, robot, you piece of shit.
Right.
So, anyways, look, if you need a beard, if you want a beard, if you want to grow the best damn beard possible, I mean, I don't know, maybe one day somebody will find your head, out of a lake, and it might be all decomposed and gross, but the one thing that won't be decomposed and gross is your luscious man mane, because you would have used Big Dob's Beard Balm, and that thing's going to shine, it's going to gleam, it's going to smell good, it's going to be soft. Use promo code PXLPARA for 20% off your order. Pick up yourself scents like bay rum, fresh citrus, mint, classic, sweet tobacco, and Spartan is the new one, and I like it. I've been using it every morning. It just smells so, musk and manly. I'm just like, God damn, I think I should go chop some wood or something. I don't know. Anyways, get it at Dobbs. That's what I got.
Do it. Fair. Hold on here. I'm just talking with the chat. All right, cool. Well, if you're in the Wichita area, please stop by, see Leslie and the rest of the gang over at CD Trade Post, Bonnie and Seneca. Check out Paranormal Egg Experience and also the Paranormal.cafe as well. So until next time, I'm going to raise this old-fashioned and say cheers to the weird shit in the world and those of us that love to talk about it.
And stay spooky and stay on the paranormal highway.
The cast at Pixelated Paranormal would like to thank you for listening to this week's episode. Pixelated Paranormal is here to tell you tales of the fantastical, the strange, the unknown. Tales that will move you a little further down the paranormal highway. If you'd like to share your own listener story, we would love to hear it. Email us at pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. Again, that's pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you. Again, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.